That are like, Doug, he's doing the hard side. Yeah, he gives me the hard side.
I want Doug to look like a hero by being able to even do the hard side. They'll be like, man, Doug is doing the hard side.
Welcome to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoatings. On this episode of Sam's Garage, Sam and Kevin install new custom-made exhaust tips on the Jeep Rock Crawler. And with a little modification, Sam and Doug install new headers on the Alpha 1 GTO. Travis gets a new winch installed on his Jeep Gladiator. And the Buick T-Type is back for an engine management system. Kevin and Sam install new exhaust tips on the Jeep Rock Crawler. These are not your typical clamp-on exhaust tips. They are CNC machined and are designed to fit inside the rear bumper for that perfect finished look.
I love the headers, Kevin. You did a beautiful job on those, the way you tucked them down through the frame and have them 3-inch all the way back. Very nice.
It was a challenge to get that stuffed in there, so we had to come outside the frame, but back here we went inside the frame so we can come out the back of the Jeep.
So what are we going to do as far as the bumper goes and tailpipes?
So we've been making these exhaust tips for muscle cars for a few years.
Really, that's what's very popular in the OEMs the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty much where the idea came from. Hey, let's make the old muscle cars have a modern touch to them. Now I want to throw that into a Jeep.
So we have to take this off. I know I don't have the tools here to cut this out and make it look really good. You're going to take it off and take it back?
Yeah, I'll take it back. I'll lay it out in CAD. We've really got to project this shadow through this, and so it's going to be a lot easier if I have a template out of my CAD program. So I'll draw this bumper up, print it out, and I'll come back with it cut.
Let's take it off and get started.
All right.
So Kevin, how'd you get that hole?
So I laid out just so I could show you what I'm going to go through when I get back to the shop.
Right.
I took one of the exhaust tips, laid it out, cut this thing out. And this is honestly how I would go about this and how an end user should. We've generally got this where we want it. Now a lot of people make fun of me for using a marker, but I'm inside the line, so if I cut outside of this marker, I'll be a little bit bigger than where I was. If I cut in the middle of it, it'll be exactly the size of it.
I would never make fun of you for using that, okay? You go ahead and use it.
Like I said, I'm not worried about anything in here because that's the area I'm cutting.
So what would you use to cut that area out? Is it you just use a regular handsaw, or is the CNC machine going to do it?
I will actually use a cutoff wheel, and you have to get a little creative in the corners because you're not going to get a handsaw in there.
Correct.
So maybe if you have a jigsaw or some sort of air saw, something like that.
Got it.
So then when we remove our pattern, you can see my mistake here.
Yep.
So we'll have a rough estimate of where we're cutting. I'll come back in. I like to cut up to, and that way I can come in and sand it to finish it to the size that we need. You want to leave clearance for things like paint and chrome, anodized finish like that.
And you want to take your time because this is an expensive bumper, and you're about to cut into it and you don't want to mess anything up.
That's right.
You did a nice job.
Well, I appreciate that. I kind of know what I'm doing.
That is crazy. Look how thick that metal is.
Yeah, these bumpers are super heavy duty.
Right.
Now what I ran into is our standard product has a little bit of a curve to it and this length.
Right.
What I found out with this extreme angle, and after talking to friends that had the same issues using the product, when you put this in, you might be way back here and it's too deep. So I come all the way out here to get flush on this edge, and I can't cut far enough back. So what I came up with is a builder series. If you know you're gonna cut it, I don't need to waste your time and mine machining all these edges.
Right.
So you'll get a full 1.5 inch longer piece. That should give you plenty of stuff.
Yep.
We have one for the guys, like I said, that want it to be a little bit proud. Put this one over here and just kind of go with whatever we give them. And,
That is nice too, though.
But while I was there, I went ahead and made a custom set for this bumper. Because why not, right?
Right?
This guy will come in flush.
Nice and flush. That is nice, man.
So you want to go ahead and put them on here, put this back on the Jeep,
Yeah.
we'll get it hooked up,
Let's
see how it
do
looks.
it. It's gonna look good. You know, Kevin, this is a real popular look. The last lift, like we said, 6 or 7 years, the OEMs have been doing it. But what you did, incorporating the exhaust pipe into the actual tailpipe, makes it so nice because you don't have a huge air gap like you would see.
Yeah, I mean, we make premium products, and we want everybody to experience the nicest stuff they can.
This is probably my favorite part of the Jeep right here.
Welcome back to Sam's Garage, presented by NH Oil Undercoating.
Sam and Doug get ready to install new ceramic-coated headers on the Alpha 1 GTO. During the installation, they realize the steering shaft needs to be modified as well. Let's see what these gearheads come up with.
Well, Doug, I got a lot done under the hood. I got the fuel injection installed. I got the MSD ignition system installed. I even got you a vacuum block right there. All we got to do now is install the headers.
Yeah, the headers that we have right here, it's real important that you match up the header ports with the head ports to make sure they're the same. Take a gasket, put it over the manifold. You're going to have to change the gasket just slightly, make sure it all fits right. And these are ceramic coated. It'll keep the heat going out the exhaust and not in the engine compartment. That's real important.
Absolutely. We got block hugger headers. We are going to have to make a new steering shaft in the driver's side. And as you can see, we got oval ports, whereas the engine has square ports, but we're going to get copper gaskets for a 351 with the bigger ports, and we can always go in there and shape the port to the correct shape that we need so everything flows correctly. All right, Doug and I just got done mocking up the steering shaft because we had to run a new one in order to clear the exhaust header. It's going to work out pretty nice.
Yeah, it looks really good, Sam. We had to put a couple of U-joints in there, made sure everything was really stiff, how it mounts on the chassis. We're going to have to drill and tap a couple of holes, but make sure your metal's plenty thick when you're doing that, but it looks great. All right, when you're dimpling the header for clearance, it's real important that you use something round. We just went ahead and used this bolt. And go ahead and lay it in the approximate angle and then use a ball peen hammer onto it. You don't want to do this. If you do this and start to hit it, it'll be an absolute mess because the only thing we want to do is clear the shaft. Okay, we've gone ahead and we've drilled the holes, and what we did is we stepped it up. I wanted to make sure that everything stayed on size, so you first start with a pilot hole, then we went to a little larger, then a little larger, and make sure you're using the proper drill size for the tap. The other thing is how thick the metal is. You want to make sure you can get at least 3 threads in off of the tap, and then it's plenty strong. If it's only 1 thread, it's going to pull out. Make sure you can get 3 threads. If not, you've got to use a nut and bolt. Putting on a little assembly lube, I just want something in here so it allows the tap to go all the way through without any type of galling or tearing. And it'll keep the threads very intact. We want to make sure we use what they call a thread gauge to make sure the threads are the proper
Depth.
Thank you.
All right, I clearanced the header. Now I can put my starter in. I've got a mini high torque starter, light in weight, and I'm going to put it right here. And I've already made the orientation of the starter to where I can get to my connectors right here. And that way the wires can go up on along the side of the header and not up right next to the header. Doug and I got the headers completely installed. It was a little tough on that side, but all complete.
Yeah, it was a little bit of work, Sam. We had to get everything mocked up. Then we had to do a little bit of indenting the header to get everything to fit quite right. but you know, it looks wonderful. It's a great set of pipes. Everything looks nice.
Travis stops by Sam's garage to get a winch installed on his Jeep Gladiator. The new winch from Super Winch is rated for 10,000 pounds and has a patented drum light. It also comes with a cordless remote control, making operation a breeze.
I got Travis from Lokar Performance Products here. He brought his new Gladiator, and it looks like you've already done some work to it.
I may have done a little bit to it, Sam.
Sure, it looks that way. You take this off-roading a lot?
Some.
Yeah, I can see some scratches, some bruises where you've been really going out there and wheeling.
Well, yeah, battle scars, if you will.
But I've noticed you don't have a winch.
Not yet.
We're feeling pretty confident going out there, aren't you?
You know.
Or maybe you've been waiting for the new Super Winch to come out.
That's right.
Absolutely. We're going to get him a new 10,000-pound Super Winch. This thing's got a 3-stage planetary gearbox and a patented drum light. Not only does it have a corded remote control, but it's got a cordless remote control.
That is cool.
That is very cool. Let's go ahead and get this thing ready to install.
All right.
Well, I'm glad you already got yourself a winch plate in place, getting ready for this Super Winch. That's cool.
Yeah, I try to do a little extra if I can.
Yeah, because it saves us a lot of time. It's already fully installed, so we're ready to put that winch in place and we'll bolt it up from the bottom.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
May have to go in an angle.
Or take the bumper off. So the ground is going on this last nut here, or is there? Yeah, it's just the one exposed nut then, huh? Because ground doesn't have to be protected. Okay, let's run the wires. Power and ground. Taking both to the battery. Are they able to go to the battery? Is this all the no? Travis, that went awesome. I see you got some bumps and bruises under here. You really can't see unless you're on the lift. But that install went easy, didn't it?
It sure did.
Now, anytime you guys are running power and ground, you always want to make the last connection your ground wire. Your battery terminals should be tight, and clean. No wiggle whatsoever. On a Jeep, when that happens, it creates problems like as an ABS lights, and when you're going to program things, you may have an issue because you don't have the correct voltage.
I see.
It's very important.
Gotcha.
Go ahead and give that thing a shot.
All right.
That's pretty strong.
That works
pulled
nice.
my arm in. Well, there you have it, Travis. That looks pretty good. That drum light's going to come in handy at nighttime, and the fact that you can move this control box anywhere will give you that nice compact look.
It sure will. I will have to say the wireless controller is probably my favorite part.
Absolutely. And here's a side note, guys. If you're lifting your car on a lift, you want to make sure that when you're going up and down, if you hit the ground, the car's got to be in neutral and the e-brake's got to be taken off, because as you go up and down, the suspension will travel and you want those wheels to move. If they don't move, when you come down, it'll inch forward. And if you do that enough, it'll come off the points where you lifted it, and that can get really dangerous real fast.
I'd say.
Now let's go wheeling.
Let's go.
The 84 Buick T-Type is back in the garage for a new engine management system from Holley Performance.
You guys may remember this car from previous seasons. If you don't, it's a 1984 Buick T-Type I've built with an LS engine, 6-liter in this case, fully forged with Brodix heads, comp valve train, big cam. It's also got an 83mm turbo and nitrous. In this case, I've got a Terminator X going into this car. And I'm going to be using the transmission controller because it's got a 4L80 in it. And I'm going to be using the fly-by-wire throttle, so I'm going to have to get an extra harness. Besides the extra harness for the throttle body, everything you need is going to be in this kit. You've got the main harness, you've got the power harness, you've got the transmission harness, and the display to be able to answer all the questions you need to get your car fired up. Now the cool thing with the Holley system is, for you DIYers at home, you can get the car running in 99% with just the handheld. But let's say an application like this where I've got boost, I've got nitrous, I got to reduce timing when the nitrous hits. I could go in and download the Holley software onto my laptop and have complete control of the system and be able to manipulate anything I want with it. That's going to make it really nice, and that's why you see a lot of the drag racers using Holley on their ride. I'm going to start with installing the fuel injection sub harness. Now in the kit, when you purchase a Holley, they give you a fuel injection harness designed for Bosch style fuel injectors, which are most your aftermarket fuel injectors and all the old school fuel injectors. I'm using GM fuel injectors in this case, so they do sell a sub harness for those injectors you will have to buy separately. Now I'm going to be installing the main harness, and you want to do a good job with this, keeping it away from anything that could cause damage to it, anything as far as anything sharp, anything hot, exhaust. You want to keep it away from those items. Now there is one tip. The LS engine has two types of crank sensors, cam sensors. This one is an LS1, 6 liter, and it's got a 24 tooth reluctor wheel, and in this particular case, the cam sensor is going to be in the back where the oil pressure sensor is. On the LS2s and LS3s, they've put the cam sensor in the front timing cover, and they put a 58 tooth wheel on the crank sensor. Now, there are two different ways these things function. You can't just replace the cam sensor and then change the harness. They work, one of them works on a 12 volt system, one of them works on a 5 volt reference system. So it's very important that you order the correct system for your application, because the main harness is designed for either a 24 or a 58. I got my wire harness all buttoned up. I got the computer bolted up. I've got my power wire on it next. As you can see, Holley gives you plenty of power wire to, let's say you have a remote located battery in the trunk, it's going to make it there. You want to make sure to hook up the main power straight to the battery, power and ground. I have a junction box right here as far as the fuse holder goes, and I've got an open spot right here. I'm going to take my power from there. Now, the transmission harness and the main harness has some wires that you have to adapt to the car. This is an engine swap, so we're going to have to go inside the car. We're going to have to find switch power under cranking, and we're also going to find a constant for the memory, and we also have to power up the transmission. It's going to have a ground, a constant, a switched power, and this is going to be for the Dakota Digital to tell me speed input, okay? In this particular bundle, we have the TAC output, we have the switched power as well, constant power, and we also have fuel pump wire in this. Now, the harness that they build from Holley comes with all the relays and the fuses you need to make everything work. So you guys don't have to add anything. All you have to do is terminate the ends and connect them to your components. That wasn't too bad. I got everything buttoned up under the hood. All I gotta do now is address the fly-by-wire throttle, and then I'm gonna go inside and hook up everything we need to power up the unit. When we come back, we're gonna button it up and fire it up.